All right, how's it going? It's going to be a bit of a different video again. Like I said in the last video, I have some health issues and it can't have light on me, which makes for a weird video. I figured might as well just do more of like a voiceover until these health issues get better. Let's get right into it. We're doing like a mailbag type video. I'll have some footage in the background, keep it interesting. So I asked you for topics in my last video, and this is one that I wanted to go with. So this was a comment: does creativity struggle in today's music industry standards of mixing and mastering? I believe many artists limit themselves by the art world they find established before them. I had to reread this one multiple times to kind of understand what it meant, and then I made a few drafts of what I really wanted to say because I couldn't really nail down what it was. But basically my general essence of the question is, how can artists be creative if there's already a polished industry standard for music? I get this feeling a lot. Yeah, I still get this feeling where it feels hard to create. You feel limited. You have a hard time starting a project. You feel a little discouraged whenever you're working because it feels like the bar is set so high. You're comparing your music to your favorite artist and it doesn't always line up. This is advice I do have. I do recommend compare your music to your favorite artist because then you'll know. Like, knowing if your music is good or not is really important, and then you can understand like what to fix. You don't want to be ignorant of your weaknesses. You want to expose them as much as you can. It is tough when you're listening back and you're like, wow, I thought this was going to be good, but really it can't compare to the other music that's already released. I wanted to take a step back. Like, can I even answer this question? Because I don't want to be the guy answering questions I have no business answering. But I feel like I've had some recent breakthroughs in this area while making my own music that have helped me get past this. Personally, I want to give a bit of context to what I'm going to say. I think we currently have a huge advantage as music producers. So many obstacles have been removed. If you think back 50 years to like the 1970s, to be an artist, you had to develop a bunch of skills, songwriting, instrument or vocal skills, and those were like hard to access or like paywalled knowledge. And in order for the music to be played, it had to have real people in the room playing instruments. So that's another monetary hurdle. And even like a connections hurdle. Like, how many musicians do you know of that could just show up and play the instruments? To get your music out to fans, you had to like print records and ship them to physical stores. Who's got the money to print records or like knows the connections to get like 100,000 records shipped nationwide or worldwide? And it also had to be like okayed by a record label. You couldn't go straight to fans. You had this middleman in the middle. So that's the context. Now it's a lot different. Most of these hurdles are gone. As for education, there's a lot of free tutorials, even way more in the last like 10 years since I started producing. You can make a full song by yourself with a DAW. You don't need people playing instruments. You can distribute your music for super cheap. You don't have to do physical products anymore, and you don't have to ship them to places. So there's almost no barrier to get your music out to people. And on top of that, there's fewer and fewer music middlemen. You can go straight to fans with social media and TikTok and build a following without really needing a big company to back you. But the one thing that I think really does remain is the hard work component. You still need to put in hours to develop music production skills. I think for like two artists who want to create the same kind of music, the main thing separating them is how many hours they've put in developing that skill. These new changes to the industry are like a balancing beam. The bar to be an artist has been lowered. All of these different hurdles have been removed. And what that means is there's more of a supply of music. Also meaning there's going to be a lot more bad music in the market, I guess. I do think some sort of supply and demand economics kind of apply here. There's basically more competition, which should increase the level of music production because of it. It should increase quality, and it also should mean that people can specify a bit more. Niche artists now can really succeed. I think is a bit of a cliche example, maybe one of the most, but I want to talk about the 10,000 hours idea. If you don't know Malcolm Gladwell, I believe it was an estimate that 10,000 hours of deliberate practice is what it takes to become an expert in a field. I think it might even be overused, but I still think it's a valuable metric. I found a site called the 10,000 hours calculator. If you were to devote 3 hours a day, every day, think in your head right now, how long is that going to take? To hit 10,000 hours, if you can do 21 hours a week of deliberate practice, 3 hours a day, how long would it take? 9.1 years. Now that's a long time for someone to work at something, especially at the rate of 3 hours every single day. But I do feel like that helps put things into perspective. When you're making music and it doesn't sound good, I wouldn't worry too much about it. I think it's important to realize that getting good at anything is going to take a long time. And if you're patient at it, you're more likely to succeed. Your first music is going to be real stinkers. I can assure you of that. Maybe your medium level music is going to seem good until you play like a reference track next to it, and you might be discouraged. I want to say there's a lot to learn, and it's going to take a long time to get your music where you want it to be. I know that's the case for myself, but I do think it is encouraging knowing that as long as you're being deliberate about getting better during those hours you put in, pushing through in the right direction, you're eventually going to see the results you're looking for. It's kind of hard to see that with everything else in the music industry becoming more instantaneous and barriers being removed. Basically, you can blow up over one song overnight. The way social media really works, one song can really blow up your music career. But the hours that it takes to make a song that good still remains. I think it's a tip of the iceberg scenario where, yes, it could all happen in a day or a week or a month, but the amount of time it takes to get to that level, to get your skills at a level where that can actually happen to you, I believe those hours still remain. So I hope this was encouraging. As instantaneous as the music industry can seem, patience and hard work is required for everything. I do think if you're keeping at it and if you're progressing, it's only a matter of time before your music starts to really sound good. I know personally, there was a really big wall that I was hitting, and it was making my vocals sound any good. This was something I was going through recently, and I wanted to share kind of my mindset of how I'm able to push through it. This is something I was personally kind of dealing with as I'm trying to make music for my own artist project. And when I do get that feeling of like, this isn't comparing to the type of music that's out right now, I just come back to this idea of as long as I'm pointed in the right direction, I'm not really worrying about it that much anymore. I'm kind of being nicer to myself about it. Hopefully this was helpful to you. Hopefully it was a bit encouraging. I'd love to hear any questions you have or any topic ideas. I have a Google form set up now. There's that if you want to submit a question. It'll be linked in a comment. All right. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.